Hi, I'm Jason Sullivan of Rathbone Group, and this is on Subrogation. In this video, we're going to discuss what happens when bad fuel purchased by your insured causes damage to their vehicle, and how can you recover that money back if you pay for the repairs. Bad fuel is an issue that does come up, and there are three main ways that fuel can be contaminated and then cause damage to your insured's vehicle and the engine. First is water in the tank. All storage tanks for fuel do have water in them. The main issue is, especially with ethanol-based fuel, the ethanol absorbs the water, becomes saturated, and becomes heavier than the regular fuel and sinks to the bottom of the tank. This may be an issue if where the fuel is pumped out of the tank is towards the bottom, and then what gets pumped into your insured's vehicle is a cocktail of water-based gas as opposed to what they're expecting, the pure ethanol-based fuel that they're paying for. This can then cause the breakdown of the engine and the vehicle to stop working. Stale fuel is also a problem. With environmental changes in the production of fuel, the shelf life, how long the fuel lasts before it is used, is shorter than it used to be. If you go to a gas station with high traffic where the gas tanks are frequently refilled, it's probably not going to be an issue. But you don't always know how long the fuel was sitting before it made it into those tanks, so stale fuel may be an issue. The stale fuel, again, as it sits, it breaks down and particles develop in it that then can clog up your insured's engine. Finally, contaminants. And these are the rust, this is the dirt. These are the things that do exist in tanks and can be stirred up or exist in such high quantities that it then causes damage to your insured's vehicle. If you do have a case with the bad fuel, you want to think about who might be responsible. First and foremost is the gas station, the retail shop where the gas was purchased. A lot of times we will make a demand on these businesses and they'll state, we don't do anything. We don't fill the tanks, we just operate the pumps, we don't have any liability. And that may or may not be true under the state law and how their practices are. Second is the distributor. There are those large tanker trucks that you see on the roads and then at the gas station filling up those underground tanks that are then used to fill your insured's vehicle. The distributor may have responsibility in how they fill those tanks or in how they transported the fuel. If any contamination occurred during their responsibility, they may have liability. And finally, you have the refineries where the fuel is produced and manufactured. Any of those three, it might be one in the same, or there might be three different entities or more that were involved in those steps to bring the fuel that was delivered to your insured vehicle. All of them may have liability. Under what causes of action? Well, first you'll have negligence. Negligence is where if there's a standard and they performed below that standard, if they were in any way negligent and didn't operate as a reasonable refinery or distributor or gas station retail seller in the operation of how things were produced, how they were transported, how the tanks were filled, how the tanks were monitored, may lead to a cause of action for negligence. You also may have a breach of warranty, and specifically the warranty of merchantability. Now, when you go buy gas, you don't necessarily go and sign a contract where the warranties are laid out, but the warranty of merchantability is that you purchase something and what you purchase is good for the use intended. So it's an implied warranty that doesn't require a signed contract, but when you go to purchase gas, you're expecting that that fuel is appropriate for your vehicle and that it will run and that it's of a certain standard and quality that it's not going to cause damage to your vehicle. So what are the pieces of evidence that are especially important in trying to prove that your insured was delivered and provided bad gasoline or fuel when they purchased it at a shop? First, you want to have proof that they purchased gasoline there. Having a receipt that shows the date, the amount, price paid, then shows that at least they purchased gas at that location. Second, you want proof that the fuel was contaminated. A lot of times this will be done with a purity test, where they look at how much water is in, what are the particulates, how contaminated was the fuel, if at all. If you do a test and there's no water, or it's not above expected levels, or there's no contaminants, then you're not likely to have a bad fuel claim, and you need to look for what actually caused the damage to your insured vehicle. If you don't have that test, and a lot of times that is the case that you won't, your insured had the issue, they took it into a shop, they figured out there were issues, they made a call to the gas provider, who say, we didn't have any issues that day, nobody else complained of anything, it's not our gasoline. And then they turn to you, the insurance company, to take care of it. And by that time, you've lost the opportunity to test the gasoline or the fuel. But you can rely on circumstantial evidence. If you filled up the tank, or your insured filled up the tank and then drove 1 block and then the vehicle started shuddering, there were loud noises, and then it stopped working, that would be enough to show, because again, in civil cases, you only have to show by a preponderance of the evidence. It's not that criminal beyond a reasonable doubt. If you show it's more likely than not that your insured purchased bad fuel, you can prevail on the case. And so having that fuel test is not a requirement to file suit, but is especially helpful. Then you have to show that the contamination of the fuel actually caused the loss. Contaminated fuel isn't going to cause any issue to the body. So if you have a damaged or older vehicle with wear and tear on it, that wasn't caused by the contaminated fuel. You're going to be looking at things like the fuel tank, the fuel lines, the spark plugs, the engine. Those are the things that would have been damaged by the bad fuel. And finally, you have to show that all of those were caused but for that bad fuel. For On Subrogation, I'm Jason Sullivan. If you have any bad fuel cases, we'd be happy to take a look at those. Otherwise, if you have a topic you'd like to see in this video series, please email us at video@rathbonegroup.com. Don't forget to subscribe if you want the updates when new videos come out. For On Subrogation and Rathbone Group, I'm Jason Sullivan, and that's the long and short of it.